What is the true breaking point of an empire? Is it when the enemy breaches the gates, when the treasury runs dry? Or does the fall begin long before anyone realizes, hidden beneath the weight of its own success? It's 117 AD, and the Roman Empire has reached its peak. From Britain to the Middle East, Rome commands trade, wealth, and military power unrivaled in the ancient world. To the people walking its marble streets, sipping wine in lavish villas, or marching with its legions, Rome is eternal. But nothing lasts forever. What the Romans don't see, what no empire ever sees, is that their greatest enemy isn't an army at the border. It's not a rival kingdom or a barbarian horde. It's something far more dangerous. It's success. Success breeds growth, but growth breeds overreach. When a system expands faster than it can sustain itself, the very things that made it strong begin to crack. Rome, the greatest empire the world had ever known, grew too large, too fast. And what followed wasn't a dramatic fall in a single moment, but a slow, painful unraveling, one that took centuries to play out. This isn't just history, it's a blueprint, a cautionary tale that repeats itself across civilizations, businesses, and even personal ambition. Because every empire, whether built on stone, money, or ideas, faces the same risks. This is part one of a series breaking down how Rome went from an unstoppable superpower to ruins. In this episode, we focus on the rise and overreach of an empire and what modern society and leaders today can learn from it. In the beginning, Rome expanded with purpose. Every conquest served a function, fortifying borders, securing resources, ensuring stability. The empire's growth was strategic, its foundations reinforced with each new addition. But then, something shifted. Expansion was no longer a means to security. It became an obsession. Growth for the sake of growth. New provinces were taken, not because they strengthened Rome, but because they symbolized dominance. The empire became addicted to its own success, blind to the weight it was placing on itself. Every new territory meant more borders to defend, more legions to fund, more bureaucracy to maintain. The machine that once made Rome strong now made it slow, inefficient, and vulnerable. At first, it seemed manageable. Adjustments were made, taxes were raised, armies were stretched a little thinner. But cracks, once formed, do not stay small. Communication faltered, supply lines weakened, and a government that once made swift, decisive choices became buried under its own complexity. Then came the tipping point, the crisis of the 3rd century. For 50 years, Rome spiraled into chaos. 26 emperors in 50 years, most assassinated. Civil wars drained resources. Once loyal generals turned against the state, and for the first time, Rome's borders were not just threatened, they were collapsing. This is the fate of any system that prioritizes expansion over stability. A structure built without reinforcing its foundations will always fall under its own weight. And when collapse comes, it is not sudden. It is the result of 100 small mistakes, ignored for too long, disguised as progress. Rome formed an identity built on discipline, resilience, and an unshakable belief that nothing was more important than Rome itself. It was this mindset, this relentless pursuit of strength and order, that turned a small city-state into the greatest empire the world had ever seen. But as Rome grew richer, it also grew softer. The disciplined citizen soldiers who once fought to expand and protect the empire were replaced by mercenaries with no loyalty to Rome, fighting only for gold. The Roman legions, once feared for their tactical brilliance, became lazy, undisciplined, and corrupt, their training neglected, their purpose eroded. And it wasn't just the military. The citizens themselves changed. They now demanded comfort over contribution. The empire that had been built on the backs of hard-working, battle-hardened people had given way to a society consumed by excess and distraction. They called it bread and circuses, a phrase that would come to define the slow decay of Roman society. In its early days, Rome's strength came from its citizens, farmers, craftsmen, soldiers, people who built, fought, and sacrificed for something greater than themselves. The once proud citizens, who had fought to expand Rome's borders, now demanded to be entertained rather than to contribute. The Roman elite, aware that an idle, restless population could turn against them, devised a simple solution: keep the people distracted. Lavish gladiator games, extravagant festivals, chariot races at the Circus Maximus, endless spectacles that required nothing from the citizens except their cheers and attention. While outside the city, barbarian forces were gathering, preparing for the moment Rome's defenses would finally fail. Because an empire doesn't collapse the moment an enemy breaches its gates. It collapses when its people stop fighting for it. And the same is true in any system, any institution, and any individual pursuit. The moment you stop focusing on what made you strong, the moment you value comfort over resilience, distraction over discipline, indulgence over purpose, you are already in decline. The decline of Rome was slow, almost imperceptible at first, masked by the illusion of power, the grandeur of its cities, the remnants of its once disciplined legions. From the outside, Rome still looked strong, but inside, the empire was already unraveling. When the final tests came, when the economy collapsed, when the legions could no longer hold the borders, when foreign invaders gathered at the gates, Rome was no longer capable of responding. It had grown too big to manage, too fragile to sustain itself, too blind to see its own vulnerability. This is the inevitable fate of any system that grows beyond its means, loses sight of its foundations, and ignores the warning signs of internal decline. A leader who prioritizes comfort over discipline finds their influence fading. A nation that values spectacle over substance slowly erodes from within. And Rome, once the greatest empire the world had ever known, was now at the mercy of forces it could no longer control. And in Part 2, we uncover the next phase of Rome's fall, the leadership failures, corruption, and internal decay that truly sealed its fate.